I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodang soge chonam la, changju badu danye, dage jeje gibe sonam, dola penje sangye do baraj. Sangye chodang soge chonam, changju badu, dage jeje gibe sonam, dola penje sangye do baraj. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining for the second sessions. So we have been going through particular, very important and very well-known texts, very short, but which content all the main essence of all the Buddha's teaching and the practice by Lama Tsongkhapa, the principal aspect of the path. And last week, we finished some of the verses, paying homage, and then encouraging to listen correctly, and how to listen, how to study correctly with the right intention, motivations. So we kind of spoke a little bit about that, and then went through the main subject of this text and discussions. It is three principal aspects of the path: the renunciation, bodhicitta, and the right view. And then within that, we were on renunciations, and within the renunciations, here it is explained in three main points why we need to cultivate renunciation, how to develop renunciations, and how measurement, how do we know we have cultivated renunciation or not. So when we finished the first point last week, why we need to cultivate renunciations. And today we started the verse where he explained how to cultivate the renunciations. So that is verse number 4, So in verse number 4, there's two verses in that, So in order to cultivate pure, true renunciations, there's two things, to overcome, strong desire or attachment to the pleasure of this life, as well as, so that is one. And then not only that, then also to overcome any kind of strong desire, attachments towards, the pleasure of samsara in general. So with that, two main points, so to cultivate renunciation is, as we mentioned last week, it's a state of mind. And so it is, turning your mind away from the desire or attachments, So that's what renunciation means, turning away your mind from any kind of strong desire, attachment to whether it's a pleasure of this life or whether it's a pleasure of futures, samsara, So that is the renunciations, we discussed before, and that is what it mean by renunciations, when you give up those attachment and desire. So how can we give up? How can we give up and desire for the pleasure of this life and the future and the samsara? So then the first verse is related with that, the overcoming through certain practice, through certain meditations, through certain meditation, how can we overcome, how can we abandon the attachment and desire for the pleasure of this life, yeah, so that is where, and so here, freedom and endowment are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. So meditating on precious human rebirth, so that is what freedom and endowment are difficult to find. In that sense, that it explains about that we need to meditate on precious human rebirth, precious human rebirth. So freedom and endowment is the precious human rebirth. Free from this life, which it has, which is free from the eight state where you don't have freedom to practice the Dharma so much. So precious human life has those eight freedoms. If you are in any of those eight different states of beings, then you will not have a, opportunity and the right condition to practice the Dharma, and therefore you are free from all these obstacles, and therefore having this eight freedom. And the endowment is something, not only you are free from all the obstacles to practice the Dharma, but you have gathered all the right conducive conditions to practice the Dharma. To practice the Dharma, there's two things. One, we need to be free from the obstacles to practice the Dharma, and to need to gather the right conducive condition to be able to practice without much obstacles. And so, therefore, we have gathered the 10 endowment or richness. Those are the right conducive condition to practice Dharma. So this precious human life with the 18 qualities of that freedom and endowment, 8 freedom and 10 endowment, is very, not only is, precious in a sense that if we utilize our full potential of this life, if we utilize our full potential, we can achieve happiness of this life, happiness of future, happiness of liberation, happiness of fully enlightenment. Temporary happiness, ultimate happiness. We have the potential to achieve temporary ultimate happiness. We have the potential to achieve happiness, pursue the happiness of ourselves, as well as pursue the happiness of others. And so therefore this life is such a precious. It has so much potential if we can just utilize it correctly, properly. In terms of the potential, there is so much, and therefore it's such a precious, and so therefore we have to make most of it, and not to waste this incredible opportunity, this incredible potential, not to waste this incredible precious opportunity and the potentials, and not only is full of potential and therefore is so precious, but it is also very difficult to obtain again, to find again and again. In terms of example, in terms of the nature, from the point of view of example, from the point of view of the nature, from the point of view of the cause, and from all that, when you reflect, then we begin to understand how difficult and rare it is to find again. And so since it's very difficult and rare to find again, therefore we have to make most of it now. If it's easy to find again and again, even we waste now, but we still have another opportunity. We still will have another chance. But since it's very difficult to find, if you miss this chance, if you miss this opportunity, we might not be able to find such opportunity and chance again in the future. So therefore, we shouldn't take for granted that thinking, or even I'm unable to make most of it, unable to utilize it properly, but I will be able to get another chance. I will be able to get another opportunity in the future. Therefore, I can make use of it in the future. If we have that kind of, attitude, thought, feeling, then again, we might be deceiving ourselves. And so not to be deceived by such thought, then we need to meditate on how difficult it is, how rare and difficult it is to obtain again. And when you realize how rare and difficult it is to obtain again from many point of view, through different meditations, as I mentioned, from different point of view, then you begin to realize, there's no space. There's no space to, waste it, and not to utilize this incredible potential, So that is, the meditation on precious human rebirth. Within the meditation on precious human rebirth, mainly there are three kind of points that we meditate on. First, recognizing all those 18 qualities, and thereby, when you recognize our life have all these 18 qualities, which is again 8 freedom and 10 endowment. When you meditate each one by one, each of them, I'm not going to go in detail here. You can study in Lambrims. In the Lambrims, they go through detail with each of them. But here I'm just kind of touching on that as these meditations. And so when you go with each of those, then with each of those meditation, with each of those 18 qualities, when you realize and you begin to see, oh, how fortunate I am, how lucky I am to have these qualities, and to feel, grateful and grateful towards our life, regardless of whatever different challenges that we might be facing. We all have our own challenges. We all have our own faces difficulty time to time, different challenges, different difficulties, external, internals, everyone go through that. But even in those difficult time, we begin to see, as much as I'm going through those challenging time at the moment, difficult time, but I'm very fortunate and lucky to have this precious human life with these particular qualities. And so with each of that, then you begin to feel the value of your life, the value of your life, the preciousness of your life, and when we have this understanding and feeling of the value of life, the preciousness of this life, then when we will not waste it, and we will, utilize it properly, we will take maximum out of it, make most beneficial from it, that is one. The first point within the precious human rebirth is recognizing 18 qualities, going each of those qualities one by one, and then second is, recognizing how precious it is in terms of, again, as I mentioned, in terms of if we utilize it properly, it has the potential to achieve happiness in this life, future, liberation, nirvana, fully enlightenment, happiness of oneself, happiness of others. We have that potential. Therefore, is how precious it is, and then how rare it is from the point of view of example and nature and the cause. So that is the main meditation, 3 points, meditation on precious human rebirth. And so that is what and then second line, where it said the life has no time to spare. That one is maintaining about meditation on impermanence. Okay, meditation on impermanence. Impermanent in general, and especially impermanent of our life. So combining those two meditations, precious human rebirth and impermanent, through that meditation, then we can be able to overcome the attachments and strong desire for, appearance of this life or the pleasure of this life. And so that is where, by gaining familiarity with this through meditations, okay? When you meditate on this main 2 points, the precious human rebirth and death impermanent. Impermanent general and especially death impermanent, which is the impermanent of this life, of the life. When we meditate that, then by through meditations, you repeat, contemplating, meditating again and again and again. Same thing is repeating again and again. That is what meditation is. Just like in our body, when you do yoga or exercise, you repeat the same exercise, same thing again and again until you become very flexible. Before there is stiffness, when you are trying to do kind of yoga or any form of exercises, your body is not flexible. There is stiffness, and it requires a lot of effort. But slowly, you repeat same pattern of exercise or posture again and again, and slowly, your body starts to become more relaxed, less stiff, and more flexible. And then it requires less and less effort. You will be able to do effortlessly. Same way, that is what meditation, in our mental state, we repeat the same exercise, same meditation, same technique, same method again and again. And then slowly, just like the body, your mind started getting more and more familiar with that. With that, your mind started to become less, tight, less stiff. Your mind started to become more and more flexible and required less and less effort. And then, effortlessly, with that familiarity, then, this attraction to the appearance of this life is reversed. Then, attractions or attachment and desire towards the appearance of this life is reversed, meaning, will be no more there. It will be gone. At the moment, we have a strong attraction, strong desire, strong attachments towards, the appearance of this life. And so appearance of this life here, again, referring to, being attached to, shelter, being attached to food, being attached to, the clothes that we need, that we wear, being attached to our bodies, being attached to our appearance, and being attached to our things, belongings, being attached to, people or other sentient beings around us, because we think that, they are nice to us, they are kind to us, they are good to us, and so forth, So with all of that, being attached to, fame, reputations, praise, being attached to kind of, excitements or sensitive pleasures, So all of these are part of what here is referring to appearance of this life, So through meditations on those two meditation, then we try to overcome that kind of strong attraction, desire, attachment to any of those objects, any of those objects. In many of the teachings, especially the Lamrim and Kadamba masters, their teachings, they say, if we're attached to, the appearance of this life, pleasure of this life, then that's not pure Dharma. They say the boundary, whether your practice is pure Dharma or your practice is not pure Dharma, it depends on when you do the practice Dharma, whether that Dharma, your practice is being motivated by the attachment to the appearance of this life, or whether it has been reversed to the attachment being reversed to the appearance of this life, there is also a story about that, Dom Demba, he was the main disciple of Adisha, around Adisha was one of the greatest master from in India, he was Nalanda scholar, and then later he had Bikram Shila, another kind of learning institutions, and then he was invited to Tibet, around 10, 11 centuries, to revive the Buddhism, to reestablish the Buddhism. And he was one of the greatest teachers at that time in India. So anyway, I don't want to go too detailed. So most of you know who the Adishata is, except for maybe there might be a few people. So that's why. And after he came to Tibet, he spent 17 years, according to the most scholar. In some, they think it's 20 years, but 17 years, and he passed away there. And through those 70 years, and Dom Demba was one of the earliest disciple and the main disciple, his heart disciple. And Dom Demba was not a monk, but he was a lay practitioner. But he was the heart disciple, and he was the founder of the Kadamba traditions, and known as the father of the Kadamba. So anyway, the stories, because before I talk about Dom Demba, I guess I have to introduce him a little bit, otherwise, who is that guy, so that's why the story came, So Dom Demba once, because he established the monastery, even though he was not monk, but he established the monastery, first Kadamba monastery in Tibetan Rajang. And he saw one monk there, circumambulating, the temple and the stupas around there. And then Dom Demba told to him, well, it's very nice and good that you are circumambulating. It's wonderful, but wouldn't it be better? It would be even more better, more beneficial if you practice the Dhamma. Yeah. So the monks thought, oh, circumambulating is not the Dhamma. So then he started doing prostrations. Then again, Dom Demba came later and saw him doing prostrations, and then he said, oh, it's great that you are doing prostration. It's wonderful. It's great. But it will be even better if you practice the Dhamma. And the monk thought, oh, prostrating is not the Dhamma. So then he started doing prayers, reciting sadhanas. Again, after some time, Dom Demba came in again. He saw him, what he was doing. And he said, well, what you are doing prayers and those sadhanas, those practice is wonderful, great. But wouldn't it be better if you practice the Dhamma? Again, he thought this is not Dhamma. So he started meditating, closing his eyes, everything. He was trying to meditate. And then again, Dom Demba came and saw him meditating. And then again, he said, it's great what you are doing, trying to meditate. That is wonderful. But wouldn't it be better if you practice the Dhamma, By that time, the monk got confused. He did everything that he thought it was Dharma. In his mind, whatever he thought it was Dharma practice, he did everything. And still, Domdamba told him that it would be better if you do the practice the Dharma. So that indicates that he was not practicing the Dharma. And so finally, he didn't know anything else what to do that he think of Dharma. So he's asked, then finally he asked, then what is the Dharma? And Domdamba said, give up attachment to this life. Give up attachment to this life. That is what the Dharma is. So that is another, I think it's Nesurba, I think one of another Katama master, Nesurba, I think it was Nesurba, he once mentioned, I've asked Adisha, their teacher, I've asked Adisha or requested Adisha for teachings, instructions, so many times. And he always says, give up attachments, practice, give up attachments, and practice loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. He always says that, not more than that. So he was complaining basically to someone else, He was complaining to someone, I've been requesting, asking Adisha to give more teachings, instructions to practice Dharma. And he always says, give up your attachment to this life and practice loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. So he was in a way, he wanted something new, he wanted something more deeper, more profound. He was looking for something more, and that was what he was always getting, the answer. So he was more or less complaining, in a way. And Domdamba heard about that. Domdamba heard about that, and then Domdamba mentioned and made a statement, Nesurpa has not really understood the Dharma. He mentioned, if Nesurpa really understood the Dharma, there's no more better instructions. There's no more better instruction teaching Dharma than to give up attachment or this life and engage in the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. And so, and he said, Nesurpa has failed to understood the very, the heart of the Dharma, the very essence and the heart of the Dharma, so that was the comment Domdamba made. And then you see, in all others, great Katamba masters, not only Domdamba, all other Katamba masters' teachings, their main focus of practice is on that, giving up attachment this life, and then concentrating on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, those, that has been their main. And so that is mainly, of giving up attachment to this life, meaning, giving up attachment to all the comfort, all the pleasures of this life, and all the costs and all the other, all the others, things, objects, phenomena, whatever that we think are the cause of our comfort of this life and happiness of this life, being attached to the experience itself, as well as the object that we think that will give us comfort and happiness in this life. That is to give up. Seems a little bit kind of too big to us, isn't it? For us, it feels like they are asking too much from us. Feel like, they are taking everything that we have that will leave us, our life, miserable, unhappy life. Sometimes we might feel that way, Sometimes we might feel that way, But it is the opposite. It is the opposite. It is the opposite. They didn't ask you to give, your comfort. They don't ask you to give your happiness. They don't ask you to give your car, your house, your food, drinks, your clothes, But what they are saying is being attached to them. Give up the attachment to those. Give up attachment to those things. They do not say give up fame, reputations, sensitive pleasure as well, praise. But what they say, don't be attached to praise. Don't be attached to fame. Don't be attached to reputations. Don't be attached to those sensitive pleasures. If you are not attached to them, if you don't have attachment to them, then you will have more happiness. You will have more happiness. You will enjoy them more. Enjoying your food with attachment and without attachments, you will enjoy more. You will have more happiness, more enjoyment if you are able to enjoy without attachments than with attachments. Do you think so? What do you think? What do you think? Do you think we will enjoy more if we don't have attachment, or do you think that if we don't have attachment, we will not enjoy it? No.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I think attachment, restrain, make us restrain, make let's say, I have attachment to food because I'm attached to a certain flavor. Okay, that is when we're attached to food. Maybe certain flavor. Some people flavor plus maybe the way they look. Presentations. Nowadays that is presentations are big things. If you go to the fancy restaurant, it is all about presentations. They present such a way that you don't even want to eat. It looks so nice. You don't want to disturb that. And so they charge a lot for that presentations. So anyway, it's the flavor. Maybe you might be attached to a certain kind of flavor that you like. How it is cooked. Is it, different people. It's some people like a little raw. Some people like more cooked. Some people like very much cooked, and different flavors, whatever different. And some people not only flavor, they like presentations as well. Some people doesn't mind the presentations. At the end, it's going all mixing everything together inside. So presentations, once you take from your spoon, and once it goes, everything's a mix. So anyway, anyway, we are attached to those different things, just to give example in relation to the food. Then, when I don't get exactly the flavor that I'm attached to, I get disappointed. I get disappointed. And then we started to complain, Then we asked the waiter to come, and then complain, it's not cooked enough, it's too cooked, it is missing, not enough salt, too much oil, too much this, something missing, so we complain, ask, take them back, bring another one, So on other hand, someone might not have so much strongly attached to any of those kind of flavor. And their presence, they are not disappointed and they're happy with that. Enjoy that. Enjoy that. Enjoy that. That is the one example of in our life, in everything's. So much disappointment in our life with so many things. So much disappointment in our life. So many things all the time with something. We're disappointed with something, more or less, with someone or something all the time. Why are we disappointed? Because we didn't get what we want. We didn't get what we want. What does that make difference, And that is because we are very attached to them. That is the thing. We are very attached to something, and when we don't get that, then we become unhappy, dissatisfied, and disappointed. And that is, our life become full of disappointment, full of unhappiness, miserable. Who created that? Who created that miserableness, unhappiness, dissatisfactions, disappointment? Not the someone there or external object, is our mind. Our attachment is the one. Our attachment is the source of disappointment more than the external conditions, objects, circumstances of someone. Absolutely is our attachment. That is the main cause of our unhappy, dissatisfied mind, miserable mind, and disappointment mind. So less attachment, less disappointment, less dissatisfied mind, less unhappy mind, less miserable mind. And don't we all want to be more happy? That is exactly what those Katamba masters are saying. If you want more happiness, less disappointment, less dissatisfied, unhappy mind, give up the attachments. Give up the attachment. Give up the attachments. And it's the same, like when you go and see any kind of entertainment, whatever that kind of entertainment be, whether you're going for a movie, whether you are going for some sports, whatever form of that, we have in certain things, we have certain expectations and certain attachments for the result, for the outcome, and even the movie is quite nice, but if your expectations and attachment to the outcome, good outcome, then you get disappointed. You end up disappointed. But if you don't have too much high expectation, you don't have too much attachment to the outcome of that, even the movie or entertainment is not so great, still you will enjoy it much more. Yeah. Like, your team, for example, whatever you are, your football teams. I don't know what your football teams is, soccer teams, basketball team or baseball team, whatever your teams, you are attached to them, you are rooting for them, you know, and in some time, you know, even they play a good game and they might lose it, you know. Even they might have a good game, nice, good game, but they might lose that day and you become very disappointed, very unhappy. Normally, if you are not so attached to it, you will be, oh, they play a good game, you know. You are not attached to the outcome. You know, you just enjoy the process, the game itself. You know, the game was well played. It was a nice game. Now, instead of being happy, enjoying because the game was so nice, but because the result was something, you know, you were attached to particular result to win. And so therefore, instead of being enjoyable, then it becomes now miserable, unhappy, disappointment. Maybe you might not be able to sleep that night, you know. That might be keep on bothering you for not only that night, maybe even for a week, maybe, you know, about that game, you know, losing that game, you know. And then you become upset to the other team, you know, for no reason for them. They just play their game. Do you get it? They just play their game and they won it, and now you're very upset with them because they defeated your team. It's interesting, you know, how our minds, you know, and sometimes you see, you know, what do you call competition, you know, not getting the right word, you know, like whether it's two different team or whether it's two great players, you know, rivalry, you know, and people get so obsessed, you know, the other team or other players, because you are so attached to this particular team or this particular person. For no mistake of other player or other team, you started to hate them. People started to say all the nasty things, bad things, no matter how good thing they do. People get crazy about all these things. In every sport, you know, in many, all kind of entertainment, all kind of things, even in politics, you know. And why we become so much that? Because we are so attached to something, and then you know, and we're so attached to something, and so then being so attached to that, it leads you to have that kind of reactions. So it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the society as well. You know. So that is why, no, you have to give attachments. You know. I'm also a little bit attached to, you know, soccer. You know. So you know, in soccer, you know, Barcelona, Madrid are like that. You know, the fan of the Madrid and the fan of the Barcelona are crazy. You know, and they can become very nasty. You know, just because of that. You know, because they are so attached to their team. You know, and vice versa. You know, some players who are playing for their team. You know, Messi versus Ronaldo, you know, is again very crazy, you know, very crazy, you know. Ronaldo's, you know, fans kind of abuse Messi for for no fault of him at all, and vice versa is also the other way too. It's such, and of course this is just, I'm just taking one example, but that will be in every sport, every games. Yeah, someone just like Manchester United, and Manchester City, are like that. Again, those in terms of soccer, so that is, sometimes you just wonder, what the heck is going on. But that is how attachment can lead you to such extreme. Do you get it? Attachment can lead to such extreme, so so that is why, all these, the Buddhas and all this, following all the Indian and Tibetan great masters and other masters, are advising to give up attachments, because those attachments, can drive us crazy, and those attachments can make us so unhappy, miserable. I remember one time, I don't remember which year, it's quite long ago. It was soccer World Cup final. Probably you might have watched. There is a movie called The Cup. It's about monks, monasteries, crazy about football, soccer. When I watched it, it just reminded me my young, when I was young, and very relatable to me, as a young monks in that story and all of that. So anyway, we were watching a final, and normally, most of the monks, and I think in the past, most of the Asians, they are a fan of, South American football, Argentina, Brazil's, so I was kind of drawn into the soccer because of Maradona, in 1986. And so that is why I was drawn into the soccer since then. So that year, it was Brazil versus French, and of course I was rooting for the Brazil, some of us, and then after the French score 1 or 2, I didn't even watch, you just slept. So, so that is example, you didn't enjoy the game, instead of enjoying the whole game, watching the whole game and enjoying the game itself, you didn't even want to enjoy, not only you didn't want to look at, you didn't want to watch it because you got so disappointed and so unhappy, and because you were so attached to the outcome, because you so badly wanted your team to win. And that is just an example of that, how attachment can make, because we're attached to that outcome so strongly that that attachment to the outcome is so strongly that affect you from enjoying, someone who is not attached to any of the team, they will enjoy just the game itself. Do you get it? They wouldn't mind whoever wins as long as it's a good game. That's what they enjoy, But when you're so attached to the outcome, and you're attached to your team, then if you don't win, then that is, you get disappointed, unhappy, and miserable, And I'm sure that all over the world, When their team win, many of people become miserable for weeks, months, maybe even a year. Some of them not being able to overcome from that. So such effect that can have for someone for such a long period. Basically, nothing is just the attachments. You are so attached, you are so strongly attached to it that effect you such a. But as I mentioned, if you don't have attachment, you will just enjoy the game itself. So that was the point I'm trying to make. Whether I'm giving this example of sport, or whether I'm giving an example of the food, but basically the point is when you are not attached, you enjoy it, whatever outcome. When you are attached to it, then you get disappointed and unhappy when certain outcome is not, when it doesn't come, certain outcome that you are attached to. So that is where, we are talking about giving up attachment to this life. And so that is where we are talking about why giving up attachment is so crucial to find more happiness, to more peace. So to overcome that attachments, and then many of the in many of the teachings, if you kind of condense, what is attachment to this life? What is the attachment to this life? If you kind of condense it, then it is being attached to 8 worldly concerns. Basically, being attached to 8 worldly concerns. So giving up attachment to this life meaning giving up 8 worldly concerns. If you kind of condense it, summarize it, then it's basically meaning giving up the 8 worldly concerns, being attached to them. So 8 worldly concerns are, being attached to, comfort, and being attached to the lack of discomfort, and being attached to, gain, and being attached to, not losing, being attached to fame, and being attached to, lack of fame, or not lack of fame, lack of becoming insignificant, and being attached to praise, and being attached to a lack of criticism. So those are the 8 worldly concerns. Basically, what we are saying is, we are either attached to gain, such as material gains, when we gain some kind of material things, so we're happy because we're attached to it. We're attached to it, we feel like we are happy. And because of attachment to that, so then we're aversions to the opposite of that. When you are attached to something, then you naturally, that attachment leads to having aversion to what is the opposite of that. So when we don't gain material things, or when we lose them, then we have aversion to that. And then when that happens, we become, unhappy, and then unhappiness, lead to, aversion and anger. Same thing, when you're comfort, because we are so attached to that, when you're comfort, it feels like we have happiness, but it's not real happiness, but it temporarily it feel like we are happiness, because we are attached to that comfort. Then, when there's a discomfort, then we become very unhappy. And that unhappiness lead to aversion towards that and anger towards that. And if we have fame, good reputations, then again, because we're attached to them, again, since we are attached to them, then when we don't have fame, good reputations, when we become insignificant, or when people treat us like insignificant, or when someone look us at as being no one, insignificant, or when we have bad reputations and so forth, again, we dislike that, and we have unhappy about that, and then we have aversion towards that, and we have anger towards that. And on the same, if someone praise you, we're happy because we're so attached to it. It feels like we're happy at that. And because we are so attached to the praise, if someone doesn't praise us, or if someone kind of criticizes us, then we become very disappointed, very unhappy, very disturbed. And we have strong dislike and aversions and anger towards that. And so basically our life is always up and down because of that, isn't it? Our life is always up and down, unstable. Our minds, life means our minds, our emotions, our feelings are always up and down because those things affect us. Those things affect us, So therefore we cannot find stable peace in our life, unable to find a peaceful, stable peace. Our life and our experience are fluctuating all the time. One moment we are too excited, next moment we feel very down, low, and very much affected by external outcomes. How people react to us, what kind of circumstances arises, all we allow, in a way, we give our freedom to others. We give our freedom to others, and others will affect us, whether we are happy or unhappy. Isn't it? Our life is almost like kind of, control, not intentional control, but maybe control, maybe not a right word. Maybe our life is very much influenced. We allow, it's not our life. We allow our life to be very much influenced by others. Instead of taking in charge, being the in charge of our own life, our own experience, our own feeling, we give our freedom to others. We allow others to influence our life, our feelings, our emotions. That is when we are attached to that. That's what happens. When we're attached to worldly concerns, that's what happens. Then we are giving our freedom to others. We are giving, instead of being in charge of our happiness or our own feeling, our own life, we are giving whether it's a sentient beings or whether it's a circumstances, we give them the charge to influence how we feel. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. If you really look, if you really think, contemplate, it's very interesting. Why are we not in charge of our own feelings, our own emotions, our own well-beings, our own happiness? Because we don't take in charge of ourselves. We give the in charge to someone else, another one. How we do that? By being attached to that. being attached to certain things, then, then everything depends on how people react to us, how people respond to us. It all depends on how people or any sentient beings respond to us, how they react to it, whether they like it, whether they like us, or whether they don't like us. Whether they are kind to us or whether they are not kind to us. Whether they are responsive or not responsive. All of that. Whether they praise us or they do not praise us. Whether they treat us respectfully or whether they don't treat us respectfully. But when we are not attached to any of them, it wouldn't affect you, whether they treat you respectfully or disrespectfully or not respectfully. You don't care about it. You are not concerned. You are not. It's not a big deal. Is there problems? If they want to treat me disrespectful, is their problem? I have no problem. It doesn't affect. Then someone who doesn't have attachment to, this kind of the idea that everyone should treat me respectfully, should be respectful. Everyone should like me. Everyone should be kind, compassionate to me, loving me. Those are our attachments. But someone who doesn't have those kind of attachments, someone like you, that is great. Someone doesn't like you, that is okay. Someone praise you, that is great. Someone doesn't praise you, that is okay. Not big problem, not big thing. Doesn't affect you. Doesn't make you miserable, unhappy. It's just like you just can, hear the sound and you can just let it go. You hear from right ear and you let it go from the left ear. It doesn't go down and you don't hold there. But when I'm attached to praise, someone doesn't praise me and say something bad, it goes through my right ear, then doesn't go through the left, it go down. Go down and will be there for a long time. Will be there for a long time. And affect you, disturb you, agitate you, all kinds of things. So when you have no more attachment, when you don't are attached to all of this, isn't it like you are taking in charge of your own beings? Because you are not allowing the circumstances and others to affect you, your feelings, your life, your emotions. You are not allowed, you don't give that opportunity, that chance. On the other hand, when you have attachment, then it is the opposite. We totally give them, the circumstances will totally affect us. If I'm attached to, sunny, warm weather, when it is cloudy, it affects me. Emotionally, you become miserable. Oh, it is so cloudy today. I wish it is a sunny. And vice versa, And so again, but if you are not attached to that, of course, sometimes physically there might be a little, but emotionally it wouldn't affect you. Of course, sometimes physically, maybe you might feel a little bit too cold, a little bit too hot, all of that. But that is not a big problem because it will not affect you emotionally, mentally, and we can deal with that much easiness. And so therefore, unhappiness and miserable of our life is mostly because of our own emotional state, mental state. So to give those attachments, mainly the 8 worldly concerns, then meditation, impermanent, and dead impermanent in general. Impermanent general and dead impermanence can be very effective meditation method, by seeing, by understanding all the object we are attached to, whatever object we are attached to, any of those earthly concerns or the object of earthly concerns or any other objects that we are attached to, nothing's remain forever. Nothing remains forever. Everything will come to end. Not only everything will come to end, everything has started disintegrating. From first moment, it has already started disintegrating, just that sometimes we can't see the subtle disintegrating with our eyes and other consciousness, It's already started. From the very moment when, let's say, when the flowers, beautiful flower that we are very attached to, from the very moment it has produced, from that moment also decaying has already started. Simultaneously. And so after some time, we see it's decaying because now it started to become kind of brownish instead of colorful, instead of fresh. Now it is kind of become, but it didn't become in one moment like that. Now we can see it has, when it is so gross, then we can see it. We can see it, the decaying part, disintegrating part. We are able to see it because it's gross. But to reach to that growth state, it has already started, the process has already started before in a subtle way. It was changing slowly, but it was not so obvious that we could see that. But if we understand the subtle impermanence, then we can see that decaying, that disintegrating already from the very beginning. And so when you see that part, you will not be so attached to it. Because when it's obvious to us, when it's gross and obvious to us, we are not attached to it so much. That's why we throw it, in the garbage at that time. Don't we? Oh, this is old, rotten, smelling. Let's throw it. When it was someone brought it first time, if someone throw it, you will be upset. Where is the flowers? I don't see my flowers, my precious flower. Where is it? But later we want to throw it, throw it, take it to the garbage. But that already has started before. So, then we will be less attached to that. So meditating on this subtle impermanence of momentarily changing, disintegrating, decaying, ceasing, when you understand that, not just from theoretically, but through meditation, experientially, when you have that profound understanding, realization, experientially, then, we'll be less attached to them. And also when we realize, life is so short, life is so short, from one perspective, when you think about it, life feel like long, but if we look from one perspective, it's such a short. Even if we live 100 years, it's such a short. If you look from the time in general, 100 years in the general time is nothing. It's like 1 second. And then not only that, we never know, how long we are going to live. Never know. Just because we are healthy, just because we are young, doesn't mean we are going to live for long. We have seen so many, we hear news every day from all over the world. Extremely healthy young people, suddenly gone. Some of them have accident, you know. Some of them, you know, so healthy, suddenly they have heart attack or something happens, you know. Until yesterday, they was normal, healthy. Even they have doctor checkup, everything showed just normal. Suddenly, they have stroke. Suddenly, they have heart attack. All of that, things happens, you know, suddenly, and so life is such a, you know, unpredictable. Life is such an unpredictable, you know. Life can come to end so quickly, anytime. And through that kind of understanding meditation, when we realize, when we have, again, not just, you know, theoretical understanding, but experiential understanding through meditation, contemplation, when you have that experiential understanding and being aware all the time, you know, today might be my last day. This year might be my last year. This month might be my last month. This week might be my last week. Today might be my last day. When you have that kind of awareness, you know, all the time, we wouldn't get in all this quarrel and angry and fighting all the time, you know. You see, there's no point of doing that. Also, you see, there's no point of getting so attached. You know, I want this, I want this, I want this, you know, that is what we think of living for forever. And therefore, I want this, I need this and that, isn't it? We keep collecting, accumulating, and feel like I need more because in our mind, I will live that much and I will need all of this. And that is where never ending of running after them, you know, accumulating. But when we have these realizations, you know, today might be my last day in this world, then you started to feel, oh, I don't need to accumulate all of this. There's no need to accumulate all of this. I don't need to accumulate all of this. And so you have less attachment to all of them. You have less attachment to all different objects. And so that is why, again, here, Lama Tsongkhapa, you know, advising, you know, to meditate on precious human rebirth and impermanent in general, and especially death impermanent, to overcome the attachment to this life. Yeah, so are we clear? Any questions? I think we might have, you know, 10 minutes. So I think maybe I might kind of open for questions. If anyone has question, any comments or something to share, yeah. Does anyone? You can, oh, I think I might have seen something there.
Okay, hi. Thank you so much, Gisela. I got a lot out of what you said today. I just have a comment. I know I've always thought, well, how lucky, how fortunate to be born in the United States. And, you know, after what you said today, and I've heard, you know, that some of it before, you know, it really is. It's a blessing and it's a curse because we kind of, our minds are trained to want stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like a certain relationship, and, you know, we think, well, that's going to make us happy, but it doesn't. And I think it's a real challenge to, you know, break those mental habits. But Yeah, I'm just so glad that, you know, there is an antidote in meditation, you know, that's all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. There is, let me see. Yeah, I think, thank you also for sharing that from the Glen. Yeah, I think, and so therefore, even though we have heard those teachings so many times, you know, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, you know, we have read it, we have listened to it, we have discussed about it. So, but sometimes we had to be reminded because we forget it. We forget it. As much as we feel it is important, as much as we feel we want to, we need to practice, we need to do that. But at the same time, a lot of time we forget it because we get distracted with so many other things, so many things in our life. And then we get distracted about all those practice and the teachings. And so that is why, you know, continuity studying is, even something you have already studied before, is good because you need a reminder all the time, something to remind you, you know, and that is, hopefully, that is something reminded you about this particular subject today, attachments, and the antidote, the meditation to overcome those attachments. And hopefully in this week, you will be able to, hopefully that you will try to apply a little bit. And at least for this week, try to think about more about that, try to put some meditation practice a little bit, you know. If you can have formal meditation, that's great. Even you don't have formal, you know, because you are too busy, you don't have time, still you can do contemplation while you are doing other things as well, just on that subject matter about impermanence, and how essenceless all of those things, you know, everything that the object of our worldly concerns, you know, the wealth, you know, the material things, reputations, fames, praise, you know, comfort, you know. If you look from more profound, more deeply, none of them are really essence, you know. None of them are really essence, you know. And so seeing, you know, essence less in that, you know, those, you know, no matter how much you have, all of them doesn't really make you more happier, doesn't really change who you are, you know, as a person, you know, doesn't really change your mind, you know. So, you know, doesn't really help you to become more enlightened, more kind, more compassionate, more wise, you know. And so therefore, you know, they don't have so much essence in that. And so therefore, something that doesn't have so much essence, why we become a slave of them, you know, why we run after them all the time, become a slave of them. Our whole life is running after them, as though they are kind of, you know, they are the boss that make us to walk and walk and walk and run, you know, and we become slave of them. And we don't, and we go through all this stress, all this, you know, everything we go through, you know, so much stress and all of that. For what? For what? You know, just to fulfill the unending wants of the attachments. So attachment is saying, I need this, bring this, and we run to get that. Do you get it? The attachment is saying, I want this, I want this, I need this. And then we say, okay, I will do for you. I will do for you whatever you need, you want, I will get it. And then we go through whole our life, becoming slave of that, prisoner, slave of that. And for that, we go through all the stress, so many, so many others, our sacrifice for our own well-beings, physical, emotional, mental well-beings. Sometimes we even give up well-being of our own families and all of that, just to accomplish all of that, accomplish and fulfill and make our attachment happy. And so by seeing essentially, really not so much essence in that, and then by meditating on impermanent, then definitely, if we continue to do practice all the time, definitely it can be helpful, beneficial to reduce, at least, even we cannot let go of attachment completely, to start, even if our attachment becomes a little bit smaller, a little bit more weak, not so intense, not so strong, that will make huge difference. That will make huge difference, to be more happy, to bring more happiness, more peace, less stress, So, yeah. So, okay, then I think, thank you very much. And so we'll do the dedications. Due to the merits of this virtuous action, may I quickly gain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that is not arise and grow, and may that which is arise and not diminish, but increase more and more. Due to all the past, present, and future merit collected by me, and all the merit of the 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existence from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existence from my own side, achieve the state of fully enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existence from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existence from its own side by myself alone, who am completely empty of existence from my own side. Jigden kamde pende malu pa kangle chungwe sambe yishi no kadin chungme tenzen jaso la sowa deso tuje lundo sho. Tobzu changshin changben jawe tenzin jong pewe kun so to boro zu choson kuwe le man tu tu da so do je gwen do sha ten sho. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night, good evening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Ciao. See you next week. Ciao.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Geshe-la.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Thank you.